The Big Short and Moneyball. At first glance, these two movies seem like comparing apples and oranges. One dives into the world of Wall Street, while the other takes us to the world of baseball. If you look deeper, you'll find these movies are more similar than you might think. Confused? Let's break it down. The Big Short and Moneyball look vastly different on the surface, but they have many core similarities. Both movies are based on books written by Michael Lewis, who is known for bringing complex, data-driven subjects to life in a way that reveals the interesting human stories within them. He excels at showing us what it's like to go against traditional methods. The Big Short dives into the 2008 financial crisis and tells the story of a few unconventional investors who see through the housing market bubble when no one else can. Meanwhile, Moneyball takes us into the world of baseball, where Oakland A's general manager Billy Beane uses a new approach to assemble a winning team. Two stories of going against the system. In The Big Short, Michael Burry, a hedge fund manager, realizes that the housing market is built on a shaky foundation of risky loans. Instead of following the crowd, he bets against the housing market, a move that baffles Wall Street insiders and angers his own investors. Similarly, in Moneyball, Billy Beane decides to ignore baseball's traditional scouting methods and instead builds a team based on overlooked statistics. Both stories show us that going against the system isn't easy, but sometimes it's the only way to make real progress. Data-driven decisions, a common tool used by Beane and Burry. Both Burry and Beane make decisions based on hard data rather than intuition, which is crucial for their success. In The Big Short, Michael Burry meticulously reviews mortgage bonds and finds that they are full of subprime loans. These loans were given to the people who couldn't afford them. He realizes that when these loans fail, the whole housing market will collapse. In Moneyball, Beane teams up with Peter Brand, a Yale economics graduate, who introduces him to sabermetrics, a statistical approach of evaluating players based on metrics often overlooked by traditional scouts. Instead of picking players based on looks or reputation, Beane focuses on players' skills, which are directly linked to winning games. The cost of innovation, facing resistance and risk. One of the themes both films explore is the pushback that comes with challenging conventional wisdom. In The Big Short, Michael Burry faces constant resistance, not just from Wall Street, but even from his own investors. Can you imagine having to fight against the very people you're trying to make profit for? In Moneyball, Billy Beane's new approach causes an uproar among traditional scouts, who see his reliance on data as an insult and threat to their expertise. Beane's colleagues, and even the team's manager, resist his approach, forcing him to take drastic measures to ensure his vision. These movies show us that going against conventional methods isn't always welcomed. It often comes with huge risks and sacrifices. In The Big Short, Burry risks his entire fund by betting against the housing market, and his partners and investors ridiculed him, thinking it was a foolish gamble. Similarly, in Moneyball, Beane risks his job and career reputation on his unconventional team-building method. In both cases, their success doesn't come without taking huge risks. Most people wouldn't even have the courage to take such risks. Underdog stories with bittersweet victories. Both movies capture the essence of the underdog story. In The Big Short, Michael Burry wins by profiting from the collapse of the housing market. But there's a hollow, dark victory. The crisis leaves millions jobless and homeless, and the film doesn't shy away from showing the devastating impact of the financial collapse. Instead of feeling like heroes, the characters are left with a sense of dread and moral ambiguity. In Moneyball, the underdog theme takes on a more personal dimension. Billy Beane's decision to use data over traditional methods is a gamble inspired by his own past failures as a player. He didn't just risk the team's success, he risked his own legacy and redemption. Although his new approach revolutionizes baseball, Beane ultimately doesn't achieve the ultimate dream of winning the World Series with the A's. His success is transformative for the sport, but bittersweet on a personal level. A critique of larger systems. Ultimately, Both movies serve as critiques of larger systems that resist change. The Big Short exposes Wall Street's greed and the regulatory failures that allowed a financial crisis to devastate the economy. Moneyball critiques Major League Baseball's reluctance to adapt, showing how tradition can sometimes blind people to better approaches. In both cases, we can see that people in general resist change, even when the evidence for a new approach is right in front of them. Neither film ends with a typical happy ending, but both leave a lasting impact. In The Big Short, we're reminded that the financial system's core problems remain. Even after the crisis, very few things changed, and no banker faced any consequences of the crisis caused by them. In Moneyball, Bean's legacy is more hopeful. His data-driven approach transformed baseball scouting, and while he didn't achieve the championship with the A's, he influenced the whole sports world, and his impact can be seen nowadays in how teams are selected according to the player stats. Both the movies tell us that real change is hard-fought, often controversial, and always comes with a cost. These movies are powerful examples of how challenging traditional systems requires courage, data, and the willingness to stand up to skepticism even if victory doesn't look quite like what you'd expect.